Time doesn't erase murder. It just hides it better. They said the case was closed. They said no one was watching. But someone always is. This is Santana True Crime.
Welcome to Santana True Crime. Tonight we are going to be talking again about the disappearance of Matthew McDonald. Matthew McDonald disappeared from California, PA back in March of 2023. Joining me today is his sister, Sam. Sam has started a movement on TikTok and other social media to gather attention to this case. And also joining me is my co-author and brother, professional researcher, the true crime professor, Dr. Brian Santana. Sam, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
So, Sam, let's just jump right into it. We had you on the show earlier. I found your case interesting, and I wasn't really sure to make of how uncooperative the police department was with you. Normally, getting these documents are fairly easy, especially in Pennsylvania, where they have laws that govern information that's public. But I myself tried to reach out to the clerk's office, also reached out to the police department, and I've yet to see the search warrant, and I've yet to talk to someone from the police department. Can you tell us about your experience with the California Police Department in trying to obtain some information about your brother and where this case is?
Absolutely. There's no communication at all from them whatsoever to us. We've left voicemails, we left countless emails. We're not getting any return messages. We're not getting any return calls. There was an instant where the search and rescue was attached with my mom through the email to send to see if the search and rescue could come in, and they detached my mom from the email when accepting the search and rescue. So we just feel like we have no communication at all.
And was this a local search and rescue, or was this one organized by LEO?
It's actually a PA search and rescue, but my mom ran into the guy at the local Lowe's in Wheeling, West Virginia, and he had his search and rescue hat on. And my mom was just telling him Matt's story, and he was like, I'm really interested in this. Reach out to the police and let's see if we can get on the case. And that's what happened.
And so they completely cut you off of that. I assume that they did do the search and rescue, and they did do the search for Matthew.
It wasn't done yet.
They haven't done it yet?
The search wasn't done yet. We just had a whole bunch of snow, so they're waiting for the weather to calm down.
Got you. And are they going to be searching the cemetery area?
They are going to check the cemetery, yes.
Okay, I pulled up a map of it.
Yes.
That is the Howell Cemetery. That's where you're referring to?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And that looks pretty remote.
Yeah.
So is the theory that he may have walked off with someone, are they just trying to search the last known location?
Search the last known location, see if anything comes up, and then go from there. We're just waiting for more locations to come up and waiting to hear some more information about that.
And to your knowledge, this is still classified as a missing person case, right?
Absolutely. That's what they told us.
And do you remember the last time you actually spoke with a detective or someone from the California Police Department?
I spoke with the detective very briefly, but he didn't give me any information about the investigation back in August, September, through emails, and then also through text messages, and also through Snapchat, which was very unprofessional in my opinion. And
Hold
then
on.
the lead officer on the
detective is
case-
using Snapchat to communicate?
Yes, with
Is
me.
this like his personal account?
Yes, it was, but he deleted it.
Oh man.
All right. That's just a really dumb and bad idea.
Absolutely.
Because
what I
guess
thought.
what can come into court now? His
Absolutely.
Snapchat account. So
Absolutely.
if this does come in, I don't know if anyone followed the Karen Reed case where he was using his personal cell phone. as his work phone, and he was texting all his friends and making derogatory comments about her. And then he got to sit on the stand and read those in open court. You know, I think that kind of just shows or gives some type of idea of what type of investigator he is, honestly, if he's
And
using
he's the only
Snapchat.
investigator on the case.
Well, and even if he deleted those Snapchats, you could still on your side
Absolutely.
retrieve the information sent to you, and that would certainly be something to store. Even if it was appeared to be disappeared on your side, there is a way to go in through your Snapchat settings and retrieve messages that were sent to you.
Is there a reason why you use Snapchat?
Why I use it?
Or no, why he was using it?
I have no idea. One day I opened it up and I had a friend request from him. I kept it there for a couple days, and then I added him and wanted to know what he wanted, and he didn't want to talk about my brother's case.
What did he want?
Okay. So this makes sense now.
Oh, he
Yeah,
was flirting with me.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that
the lead
sounds like a
investigator
different.
was flirting with you on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that happened.
Keep those, retrieve those snaps and hang on to those.
Does
Okay.
anyone
Because-
else know about this besides the people that are listening right now?
Oh, yeah.
That's
That's just-
absolutely
I'm
unbelievable.
sorry. I wasn't
It
expecting
is.
that. But that's just a really bad idea.
That's
Yeah.
Well,
what
it's
I
a really
thought
bad
too.
idea for the people that oversee the police department as
Right.
well to get all this. That sounds like a pretty easy disciplinary, like a not much of a tough call, right?
Yes.
Like this.
I completely. So the lead investigator hasn't given you much information about the case, but he is trying to like take you out on a date or something.
Yeah, I feel like he was trying to steer me away from like investigating myself. I feel like there was kind
Man.
of a way that he was steering me away by saying, well, this doesn't look like it's working out this way, or this doesn't look like it's working that way. But there wasn't much about my brother's case. There was a lot more flirting.
Gotcha.
But
That's so crazy. It almost seems like the type of thing, if you get those messages, that would be good to forward to the state police because they might have an interest in actually having like a third. That would be a situation where a third party might want to come in because it sounds like the
Absolutely.
investigation would be so compromised at that point.
So my mom actually mentioned it to the detective that we know he's not even a detective, he's an officer. But to the officer that we know, like she knows about texting and snapping and all that. And he replied in an email and said, I'm going to request state to take the case ASAP. And there hasn't been anything since then. And that was like November.
Yeah. All right. We've got Faith. She chimed in. It feels like the police know something, but they won't tell the family.
Absolutely.
I would hope that the police have some idea, especially. This feels like it's more the.
Mhm.
A lot of stuff has been put on social media about this case, right? And
Yes.
can you tell people who haven't heard this before about the comments after he was missing
Oh,
that were
you
put
mean
on
the
social media?
stories that we were told, and the video that the side chick Sierra actually uploaded the video singing "I Just Killed My Ex" in a song. And then after he went missing, we got a bunch of stories from a bunch of different people saying he was in a trunk of a car in a river. He was in a mine shaft wrapped in a carpet. He was in someone's basement tied up. He was in concrete somewhere.
And so Sierra was the one that they actually did search her house
No,
and
it was
vehicle.
Kylie, the girlfriend.
Okay, that's right.
Sierra's
Kylie.
never been questioned as far as we're concerned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is where it becomes confusing to me because what I'm trying to figure out, like, this is a so. Can you remind me how old he was at the time of his disappearance?
29.
He was 29. So if this is being classified as a missing persons case, Cameron, maybe you can speak to this, but if an individual goes missing and he's 29 years old, is that going to trigger different actions from law enforcement just because of the categorization versus with the types of resources and other things, because I'm wondering if they're executing search warrants and other things, and I realize these can be done in missing persons cases, but they clearly think that there's something more investigatory than an adult who chooses to go missing, right?
Yeah. So what should happen, in my humble opinion, is that with any type of missing person investigation, you essentially have a checklist. Okay. So the first one would be that you're going to put him into the National Missing Person Database. So DCI. That way, if anyone comes across him, that, he'll pop up in the system as being a missing person. And then the next one is, and these should be in your departmental policy, where it says you've got to contact the hospitals, the jail, make sure he's not arrested. You go through the kind of those general things, and it's going to get a different response if it is a child or someone that has special needs or an elderly person, in the sense of how much foot traffic you're going to do that day. But you're still going to check all the boxes. And one of the very basic things in any type of investigation is you're going to have contact and update the families.
Right. In a missing persons case, which is what we're talking about. Right.
And
That was part of my point. Yeah.
yeah, and part of the, when I was with Raleigh, they had to outline in policy
Mhm.
of how often you had to check in with the families or the victim. And so it wasn't your discretion. And that was, you were using a departmental cell phone or a departmental, desk phone, not contacting them on Snapchat.
Well, and was this Snapchat? I wonder if this was sent through a departmental phone or not that he was issued, or if this was his private phone. Because if this was his departmental phone, I just can't imagine that this would be aligned with their department's policy. I mean, under any circumstances, it's totally inappropriate communication, and it's hard to believe that someone would still retain their job like after that. Like, quite frankly, it just seems like it's like gross negligence, right? Like, in terms of just completely polluting the investigation that they're getting engaged in.
After it happened, he deleted his Snapchat, his Facebook. He deleted everything.
Well, he should know better, because guess what? Snapchat, Meta, all those they keep records.
Right.
So even though he may remove it from his phone, you're actually not even removing it from his phone. Honestly, if you
Right,
dump his phone, you'll still get it. But all those, if let's say this did go to court and they found out that you did it, which I know you didn't, but you had a defense attorney and he subpoenas the officer's cell phone records and subpoenas Snapchat, they're going to get a copy of all those things that are deleted.
Right.
And that's well known. We used to tell the kids in high school that all this stuff, it does not go away. You
Right.
think it went
You
away.
would think
but
he
it
would
didn't.
know that.
You would hope that he would know that, but people have done, police officers, they'll do stupid things. And it's usually one of the three. It's alcohol, women, or money.
I think
And
I know
so,
his.
I'm not, well, I've got to be hard on the guy because it's just so stupid they did that.
And then what would be the course of action for filing a complaint against an officer in this case, Cameron? If there was someone who
Yeah.
had behaved inappropriately like that, like where would that information be kind of a complaint be filed with?
So I think in this case, judging how small the department is, I'm guessing that the chief is the one that handles the internal affairs investigation, but that should also be in policy of who actually handles that. And a lot of times, I know I keep on saying policy because it is important that they have those. If they don't have those, then that's a whole nother problem. Another person that you could complain with is if it's a town council or city council or whoever manages a police department, you could just go over the police department's head and do it that way. and I'm guessing that the DA's office would love to hear about that too.
In terms of jurisdiction in this case, the last known area, is there any way, any landmarks or areas associated with this case that could potentially where the county sheriff might have some jurisdiction over, or some overlap with this is what I'm thinking now, because I mean, if the issue is that the police department is so small and it's a few people and you're going to need someone outside, I'm just wondering in the state police have been, you know, they may or may not have been reached out to, but I'm wondering if there's any way that, sheriffs have a lot of leeway with what they choose to get interested in if there's any kind of overlap with their jurisdiction. And I wonder if maybe that's an avenue to potentially try. I mean, what do you think about that, Cameron?
So it's normally there's going to be city property, excuse me,
Right.
and county property. And so if it occurred in kind of the city's or town's jurisdiction, they would be the one that handles it. And then in some states, the sheriff's departments or in most states, the sheriff's department will do things, excuse me, like serve all the civil subpoenas.
Mhm.
Um, so anytime that someone gets sued civilly and there's a judgment against them, it'd be the sheriff's department that does that because they're the ones that are essentially the arm of the court as far as in law enforcement goes. But so I think that this would be a local case, and if the local department cannot manage it, then it would be trying to get the state
Mhm.
agency involved. Similar in North Carolina, how we've got the SBI that would, they're an assist agency, but anytime a smaller department has something that internally is a
Mhm.
complaint, then the SBI would come in and take over.
And I wonder if those complaints could be filed directly with the state. So if the department is so small, would there be like a potential conflict of interest there in terms of it getting to the state, or would it be possible to file a you're having an issue with a local department, and there would be some avenue or office with the state that they could file a complaint with?
Yeah, and we can look into that for
Mhm.
Sam and help you out with that. And I think that you've got a lot of people in the chats who love you, by the way, Sam.
Thank you
And
guys.
I'm seeing a lot of Matthew's Army. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's what we're going as, Matthew's Army.
It's so impressive. I feel like this is just really blown up. Is that me or is it just you? Or
I shared it everywhere.
yeah, I mean, you're doing a fantastic job. And again, everyone in the chats, this is the time to put some pressure on the California PD as well as the DA's office and
That's
give
why
them
the
a call
protest
and
is
let them know
coming.
your
Like,
concerns.
Yeah, I mean, literally everybody should go down to the clerk's office in Washington County and file a records request for this search warrant, just so they get bombarded with these requests, because there is absolutely ridiculous that this record isn't available. But Cameron and I did have the experience of finding a search warrant that was from over 50 years before, and we like this search warrant is definitely around, is definitely findable, and there's no way that a clerk should have ceded their entire authority as record keeper for the court to the district attorney without having any record themselves. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I just don't believe that.
right.
And can't imagine that the DA would just want to process every records request themselves, because under Pennsylvania law, they would have to make these records available if they're not sealed. And
Right.
so when the clerk says we wouldn't have that, is that like definitively they don't have it? And if so, is it normally their policy to just transfer all their search warrants to the DA's office? Because you know,
And that's what I don't understand. And if someone's in the chats that understands that, please explain that to me. Is it the DA's office is holding the search warrant if they're actively investigating it, or how does that process work? Because it seems to me that
mhm.
from talking with the clerk, that the DA's office would choose to hold some of the search warrants. But that's so odd because, like we are talking about it before the show, if it is not sealed, and
Right.
you cannot seal a search warrant forever, you certainly cannot seal it for, since 2023 without a really good reason.
And it would create this is the thing that's frustrating. It would create a court record. So only an investigator has no authority to seal a search warrant. A prosecutor's office has to do that. And a prosecutor has to go before a judge and under Pennsylvania law show good cause for it to be sealed. And it can be sealed for 60 days initially, but then after the 60 days, it has to be renewed every 30 days. They would have to petition again. But every time they petition, it creates a court record that the clerk would keep. So it's not sealed where it's secret. We can't tell you if a search warrant exists. They could tell you it's sealed. And this is the date it was sealed. And this is the date it comes up for review again. It's not just that we can't even acknowledge this record exists. Like that's not a standard by their own law.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the Mind of Monsters keeps on reminding everyone to like and subscribe. That way this show and channel can get the attention that it deserves. And the more people see it, the better. Also, there's a question about, is there a template that they should use to request the search warrant? There is a form online. I will find a way to do it. And if you DM me at Santana True Crime, I'm on Instagram as well as TikTok. I will send you the form. And if you would like an email, I'll make a generic email that you just have to fill in your name. And that way we can submit that to the California Police Department as well as the DA's office to let them know that you want Matthew's case investigated by the state.
And in most cases, this is a very simple thing in most states and most jurisdictions. I mean, it usually doesn't, the whole point of a public record is to make the actual legal process transparent for the public, right? It's in the public interest to be able to have access to this. And part of this means that they cannot create like an unduly burdensome process. You don't have to be a lawyer or paralegal to be able to file this. In many places, it can be as simple as a one sentence thing. Basic information about the date the search warrant was executed, the location it was. Sometimes you only need one of those things. I mean, and the clerks will do the work of finding that for you. That's part of what the actual responsibility of the court is. And so they can create a process for that, for requesting that, but it shouldn't be something that's a very complicated thing. And the email that I sent to Sam before, that was like a letter to give to them, really tried to account for this. We're listing all the documents we wanted. And if they could not supply those, or if it was sealed, to explain exactly when it was sealed and when it comes up for review. But it doesn't sound like that stuff was answered either. So I think that it's a little confusing for what they want, what information they actually want, or how they're filing the search warrant. But I can't imagine that there are so many search warrants served in this area that it would create a huge burden for their staff to look through in the month it was executed and pick it out.
Right. And that's my whole thing is I cannot foresee this courthouse being that big. I mean,
it's like two people work in this office from what I could tell.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was in
I
there,
mean,
there
how
was
many
like
search warrants are they getting a day?
Right.
It's not like a major city where they're getting turned in, multiple a day. If you give them the date and who you're looking for or who was involved in the search warrant, that should be enough.
Yeah, we got one from the 1970s. We didn't know even who it was executed against. We didn't even have an address. We just knew a date it was executed on and the case it was related to. And it took a number of months, but we did get it. And in this case, we have the individuals kind of involved in this of who it was executed against. And it sounds like there's been information that's been shared or alluded to at times about what the results of that were. And so that's the thing that's a little confusing about why this would be withheld, or is it just a question of it's not being withheld, it's just being so incompetently managed that people aren't kind of getting back? So
Yeah, it's Sam, I'm so impressed with, I know I keep on saying this, but just it seems like more and more names are coming in here. Um, let's see. Billy says the state or even the cops need to do their jobs and help find him. Matthew's family doesn't deserve to go this long without answers because the cops don't want to do their job. And it's like,
It's
that
exactly
sounds really
feels that
harsh, but
way. It
it,
feels that way.
it's
It
also,
honestly feels that way.
yeah, I can't imagine what you're going through. And, these cases are so hard because I feel like this is not a missing persons case. I
I
think
feel
that,
like, yeah, I
you
agree.
know, it's possible. I mean, he ripped off his ankle monitor.
He wouldn't have been
Maybe
gone
he's
this
on the
long.
run and, that's a possibility. But I
Somebody
think that,
somewhere would have seen him by now.
and that's my thought. And, I think these cases can get pushed under the rug so easily.
Hmm.
And when you look at areas like this, it really reminded me of a case I was going to bring up because we're going to have another guest with us, but it is Ashley Loring Heavy Runner. I did a show on this with Jayson Blair. She is a Native American from the Blackfeet Reservation, and it's kind of the same thing where it's like this epidemic that's going on. And it's hard to get attention to those cases because it happens so frequently. And a lot of times too, it's because of their history. And with Matthew, yeah, he was on an ankle monitor. Yeah, he, used drugs, but that doesn't mean that you put any less effort into it.
Exactly.
And I look at what, a great example is the Samantha Godfrey case, where her mom disappeared. And you've got every resource in the country, looking for her.
Exactly.
And
Every
you've
missing
got,
person matters, but why are we using all our resources for one missing person when there's thousands of missing people?
yeah. And you know what? We're not asking a lot here.
Right.
We're
We're
asking you
asking
to
the
continue to
resources to
follow
be
up on leads.
used fairly. We want them to be used the right way on the people that every missing person deserves it. There's not one missing person that doesn't deserve to be found or resources used to be found.
And I know I keep on going back to this, but I just think that departments need to look at this and say, okay, do we have a standard or a protocol for how we're going to do investigations? And it's that simple. It's you check the boxes, you follow up the leads, and you follow up with the family for more information. And even if that's a phone call saying, we don't have anything new to report, have you heard anything? Just to
Right.
give you some type of comfort knowing that they're doing what they can.
And
yeah,
we're
and beyond
getting
the
radio
message,
silence.
yeah, and beyond messages, they're just through Snapchat and flirting. Like that's so unbelievable to me that that like happened as a part of this entire thing. Especially how many people are in this department? Like in
I
total, it's like
believe they only have like 5 or 6.
it's like 5 or 6. So we're talking like 20% of the department then was like, in this case, like sending these like inappropriate messages. Like I think I think if you still have you said you don't have those messages anymore, right?
No.
They are retrievable on your side. Maybe there's someone in the comments who really knows how to do this, but I was listening to a case recently and they were explaining this about the way that on the person who receives them, it looks like they're gone when someone deletes their account and stuff, but you can actually retrieve them on your end still. If someone is out there and has an idea of exactly how to do that, I'm sure AI or some other program could like help us figure that part of it out. But if anyone knows how to do that, then certainly chime in because I think you retrieve a copy of those messages that was sent, and I think that's something that would the state police, I have to believe, would be very interested in.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that the next step is the DA's office at this point.
That's why we're doing the protest, because we're not getting through to the police. We're not getting through to the DA's office. We've been to the DA's office in person multiple times. We've called, we've messaged, we've done all kinds of things, and we're not getting return calls. So it's not just the police department, it's the DA as well.
And when is the protest going to occur?
May 15th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 South Main Street, Washington, PA 15301, right in front of the Washington County Courthouse.
Yeah. I mean, the way that this is growing, I think you're going to have a good turnout. Amy says DA wants a referral to state police from sheriff.
Well, see, and that was
Mhm.
my from the sheriff, but that was my question earlier was what role does the sheriff have any jurisdiction in any of this? But if the sheriff doesn't have any jurisdiction, like how do they have any like place to make a referral? Like that's the thing I'm confused about.
Yeah, I meant the California, and maybe Amy can chime in on this, but
Yeah.
the if California has the case, that's what I wouldn't understand is like why would, unless it is something where, you know, like Matthew's jurisdiction where he lives is through California, PA, but the sheriff is responsible for the ankle monitor, and since he cut that off, then there's a case.
There you
You know,
go.
kinda,
There's a yeah, right.
so I think that they could work a lot of. They referred it to the state PD, saying exhaustion of measures and needed assistance, basically. Well,
Mhm.
I think that is a good thing to do if they would do that, because if you've got 5 people working with
Right.
little experience and less resources,
And not very good training, what it sounds like, just with the personal messages.
yeah, yeah,
Or
I think that's definitely the route to go. Um, and so, but you've never heard anything from the state police. Have you tried to reach out to them directly?
We have directly, but they said the case has to be handed over to them. They can't just take the case from California. So until it's handed over, which Cal will not hand it over, but they're not doing the investigating, they're not questioning the right people. So if you're not going to do the work, hand it over to somebody who will.
Hmm.
I'm just tired of fighting with them, and that's why I've worked so hard to get this protest started. I've worked so hard to make this protest big. I believe
Yeah.
it's going to be big. I believe it's going to move mountains. I hope everyone shows up, and I hope that it just shows that we have an army behind us and we're not stopping.
And I think that's the key and going to be the hardest part is that you've got to continue to go on, and even when they shut doors in your face. And Brian and I have talked about this before. It took us each. He was working on getting the ME's report, which was literally lost. And when we were writing our book, hold on. I'll give myself a plug here. There, when we're writing this book, which is about a 1973 cold case from Asheville, North Carolina, on the campus of UNC Asheville. Her name was Virginia Olson. The search warrant in that case was lost. And we knew it existed. We had talked with the detective. He told us that he had a copy, but would not give us his copy and went scan it. And the protocol in North Carolina is that you get it from the clerk of court's office. They could not find it. They spent, weeks and weeks with me on a wild goose chase calling people. And eventually just started to send up emails through, Asheville City Council. And I remember it was July. And I looked into my email box and I was like, well, shit. They actually gave in and sent us a copy, completely unredacted too, which was nice. But my point is that this is going to be a long fight. And I think that that's when, you've got to continue to do what you're doing, which is incredible.
I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm not stopping.
Oh, speaking of fighting, guess who decided to join us?
Mr.
Hey
Jayson Blair
guys,
Jayson
here,
Blair.
everyone.
I am so sorry for the delay. I got
Okay.
distracted.
No, it's okay. We'll drop your.
I got on Nina, so I knew you were coming.
Well, the funny part is she reminded me. I went and I looked down at my phone and there was a message from Brian saying, Jayson, are you coming? And right before that message was Nina, 10 minutes till Brian. I can't remember.
Sam, this is Jayson Blair.
Hey,
Jayson is a
Hi.
journalist as well as an awesome podcast called The Silver Lining Handbook. Jayson also was the one that has been investigating the Ashley Loring Heavy Runner case, and he has dealt with several difficult missing person cases, and I believe is an expert when it comes to getting the word out. You also have a great fan base, so
I don't know if I'm
there.
but- Yeah, I just have I have a deep passion for helping solve these cases, but also I think a passion for people who are who are family members and loved ones who are trying to navigate, this, particularly the missing persons cases, this ambiguous sense of sort of like grief while still trying to advocate to get something done. And I think it's something, all of us suffer and all of us go through different things, but it's a very different kind of struggle. So I think illuminating those stories, kind of like you guys are doing right now, is really important because I think, to me, I think that the community of people who are interested in these kinds of stories is really, really powerful. But I think an important part is if you understand the experience of families and what families really need and what other loved ones really need, it gives you an opportunity to bring something good out of it. So it's not merely entertainment, or that you're not, and I see this happen a lot of times. People are trying to be helpful and they actually end up being harmful. And a lot of it is they just don't know what people need. So
Well, Jayson, while you're here, something we were talking about. I'm sure you didn't hear the first part of this, but something we were talking about. We were just Cameron was describing his experience. So the police basically with Sam it's a small police department in California, Pennsylvania. I think of 5 or 6 people, and the police department basically cut off communication with the family very early, where they weren't really giving them any progress. The family learned that there was a search warrant that was executed at some point during this. And so Cameron and I were trying to help get a copy of the search warrant. I had initially filed a request with the clerk, and the request was, it wasn't formally denied. She just said she didn't have the information to find it, which was really bizarre because I wrote up a very detailed request. And Cameron tried to file a request as well.
I actually called her.
Yeah, and then talked to the clerk, and essentially they said that, well, we don't even know if we have a copy of it. So contact the DA's office. The DA's office won't return their family's calls whenever they're reaching out or trying to get in touch with them. And then meanwhile, one of the police officers who was attached to the investigation reached out to Sam via Snapchat and was sending inappropriate flirting messages, and then panicked and deleted his whole account, and the police won't talk to them now.
The police won't talk to Sam now, you mean, or
anyone in their family, the mother of Matthew or Sam or anyone. And
is it that they won't tell you anything, but they'll take information from you, or they're just not communicating with you at all?
They're not returning emails. They're not returning voicemails when we want to give them information, when we want to ask about what's going on. We don't get anything. We get radio silence.
Yeah. So Brian, was your question about the search warrant?
Well, it was twofold. On one hand, the search warrant, there's different information that they've heard about that was tied to the search warrant, but the we just been getting the runaround because under Pennsylvania law they can seal a search warrant for 60 days initially,
Mhm.
and then they can renew it, but the prosecutor would have to go to court and get
Yep.
that actual sealed. Like and in part of the request when it was filed, I'd asked if it was sealed to just tell us the date it was sealed and the date it would come up for review. They wouldn't say it was sealed, and that would be just a public record action that they should have logged with the clerk's office. So I don't believe it's sealed to begin
You mean
with.
they're just not replying to you?
They're just not, and no one is kind of, and then the clerk tried to say, I think that the DA's office may have it, which seems irregular to me that they would have no actual records of any court actions that were taking place. The clerk of courts wouldn't, but just the
Yeah,
DA
you've got
would
to
have.
come back. You have to come
Right.
back. The search warrant.
The
return.
last thing we have from the police that due to the investigation at all was the DNA found in the trunk. That's the last thing they told us.
And
Right, and that's
goes back
public
to,
record now.
Is it March 2023? Is that
Yeah,
right?
he went
Right.
missing, but they told us about that April, May of
Okay.
23, and that was the last they told us about the investigation.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And when was the search warrant?
The search warrant was around that same time.
Okay, so it was around that same time. So it
Mhm.
probably should be. It should be undoubtedly available. And do you have any idea do you pick up any clues or hints that they are investigating the case?
As far as we know, since he talked to me back in the day, that was like August, September via Snapchat, text messages and such. He said they were still investigating, but I feel like he was also trying to steer me away from looking into certain things or looking into certain people because I was questioning, trying to talk more about the case. And he would steer me away from that conversation and try to steer me in other directions. And I wasn't having it. And he also, reached out to my mom. We reached out in November. My mom was like, I know that you were Snapchatting my daughter and everything. And he's like, I requested for state to take the case. And that was in November. And we haven't heard anything else from him since.
Can I ask him just sort of what for me, maybe I might be missing something. Why was he messaging you over Snapchat?
That's
I have
an
no idea.
excellent question.
Okay.
He swears. I think he was trying to get a hold of me in another way and again steer me away from what I was looking into and what we were doing. But he states that he didn't know who I was when he added me.
Okay.
And was a friend and was talking to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It would be searched by your phone number too, right?
I'm gonna call that mildly irregular.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Call me crazy.
And he said-
it's a
do you
really
remember-
small department. So, I'm in, he mentioned the Ashley Loring heavy runner case, but, just having interviewed a ton of people, the way that law enforcement interacts with families is so inconsistent. And you'll even see differences with different family members. But this woman, Gloria Crow Boberts, whose cousin, Christina Nelson, was killed by undoubtedly a serial killer out in Lewiston, Idaho. She has forged an amazing relationship with law enforcement. And over the years, because the case has been going since the 80s, there's been varying degrees, but it's very interesting to watch her journey because of where the crimes happen. There are actually 3 or 4 law enforcement agencies because it's at the confluence of the Snake River. So you get all these counties. And it's been very interesting to watch how the different jurisdictions engage her and interact with her. And I think it's a good metaphor. There's one police officer who is the detective on the case in one county, and it's not even the county where her sister was found, who is an amazing advocate, will do anything, will talk to anybody, will push, will work with Gloria. I mean, in ways that you rarely see families work. But across the river, where Christina actually disappeared, they won't speak to anyone. They won't talk to anyone. And the interesting thing, and why I think Gloria's story is such a good one for this point, is you can almost draw a line on the cooperation level between which department screwed up the most in the case and who will talk and who won't.
Yes.
Now, the one person who really works with her, I think it's all because she's just an amazing detective and an amazing human being. But it's the departments that screwed up the most that tend to not engage. And I don't find that that's always the case. Sometimes departments are quiet because they know they have a piece of information, and if they're communicative, it will create some kind of problem. But usually when I see radio silence, complete radio silence, it's an interpersonal thing where they don't like dealing with you, they don't trust you, they something along those lines, or they are just afraid of how they handled something. And that's usually my experience. And it's always a delicate thing with the cops, I think, when they're investigating a case, because so much of letting you in really is about trust, even in the best of circumstances. But when I see people go silent, I tend to wonder about that. Now, going back to Ashley's case, there was a long period where the FBI agents wouldn't talk to her sister. That was all interpersonal, right?
Mhm.
They would have talked to probably anyone else on the planet. New FBI agent came, took over the case, opened up, and talked. And in that case, there's 17 police officers on a reservation that's 5 million acres, something along those lines. And the guy, I mean, I've said this publicly before, but the guy who's their public information officer, it was sleeping with one of the suspects. So it makes it really, really difficult in these small communities to get information. So even things that they legally owe you, unless you're willing to sometimes walk before a judge or file a lawsuit, it can be really difficult to get. Because in their minds, they're like, who on earth is going to go file a lawsuit for a search warrant return? I'm going to go worry about something else.
Well, even beyond that, Jason, my understanding is, Sam, you can correct me if this isn't true, but my understanding was even when your family was just asking what was the case number that was assigned to his case, they were refusing to give it to you.
Yeah, they didn't give it to us. I found
Right.
it out from you
And
guys.
that's what
And
bothers me is
Yeah.
the basic information. So the way that our reports were written is we had a public copy and we had the
Mhm.
actual police report. In the public copy, you would just give them the summary, which would be something very generic, like, on March 9th, 2023, Mr. McDonald was reported missing. And then, like he was put into DCI as a missing person, but very brief, nothing from the actual investigation is going to go in there. But enough where, if someone were to pick that up, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's a missing person case. That's all that I was expecting, is to just get a case report number and then the search report, the search warrant, which should be public. But the other thing that pisses me off about this is that departments need to have, I know I've said like 20 times tonight, but an actual policy that states when you follow up with victims. And if it's a misdemeanor, it's this time frame, if it's a felony. And so it should not be up to the detective or investigator to, decide if he likes the family enough to call them back or if he has a problem with them. It should be, even if that phone call is just, you know what, I've got nothing to pass along, or you know what, we're still working on your case, something that generic, but at least give them the courtesy of calling them back too.
right.
And I think that, there are, I think a lot of advocates are pushing for it. You can see it in California where they've passed laws on case review and reinvestigation and mandatory reporting to families.
Yeah.
So, in regular communication, there's states with significant changes in their laws, like around victims' rights, like Maryland's Supreme Court recently. So there are people who are doing it, but I think you still run into the problem with a small police department. Unless you have some kind of teeth behind these rules, in a 5-person, 6-person, 10% department, or 10-person department, it's really going to be up to them to whether they're going to follow the rules or not follow the rules, unless somebody comes and forces them. And that's why I think a lot of these complex cases, and trust me, a lot of local law enforcement, even small departments, are perfectly competent. I tend to think a lot of these cases that are highly complicated, that are long running, where the family is going to be engaged over a long period of time, are sometimes better handled by the larger law enforcement agencies.
And this is where getting the state police had originally had told the family when they reached out. I think Sam mentioned that that they would need a referral, that they didn't have automatic jurisdiction there. But of course, but if Sam was able to retrieve these messages, let's say where one of the investigators tied to it was adding her on Snapchat or Facebook and sending like inappropriate messages, that might be a circumstance in which a third party might be able to come in and have some jurisdiction without being invited because of a perceived conflict of interest. Jason just disappeared.
Jason.
I'm sure he'll be back in just a moment. Yeah. I just can't believe that the state police would not. There he's coming back. Do you get what I'm saying, Jason? Like, I just can't believe
it happens in a lot of cases.
That would be a situation where, in the same way, like in North Carolina, if there is an officer involved shooting, it won't be like, well, if the department like invites the SBI, they'll investigate. Otherwise, they might just decide to handle it internally. They just have some level of jurisdiction, right, Cameron? For that. So yeah.
Well, so the SBI investigates all officer involved shootings.
And in certain large police departments, they have special units for it. In some places, it's the state police does all of them. So you could have laws, you could have regulations that sort of impose those I think those kinds of steps. And you could do the same thing as any police department could choose to build in regulations around family engagement and family involvement. I think people are loath to do it for a couple reasons. When I talk to them, the first one that I'll hear is, well, what if the family's involved? We'll never know at first, right? So that becomes the first one. And I'm like, well, you don't tell them anything that anybody who was involved would possibly. Right. So that's the first objection. And then the second objection is, we give them a lot of information. And even in the best circumstances, they go out and tell someone, and all of a sudden something valuable to the investigation is in the wind. Yada, yada, yada. It's usually a second argument. And then the third argument, once we parry through those, third argument tends to really come down to those interpersonal things. Got off on the wrong foot with them in the beginning, and they're just not going to do anything. Where I see impact happen is when another law enforcement agency somehow becomes interested in the case, whether it's state police, FBI, whoever, right? I always said this in my mental health work. When my clients wouldn't get a return call from their doctor, I'd say, let me call them, because on professional courtesy and the risk of embarrassment, they're going to return their call. And it would inevitably work. And I think it's very true when other law enforcement gets involved. And then finally, the other thing is media. I mean, media will push and it's not just government agencies, but any organization that has some measure of public accountability is going to respond to the public pressure, persistent public pressure. It may not be a response in the way you want. It may make it worse, but there will be a response. And it's
we're going to be on News Nation about my brother. So I'm excited to see what happens after that.
And I think being able to talk in a large forum like that about the case, about who your brother is in a way that helps, I think it land with people and resonate for people. And, I think it's worth it probably to try. I don't know whether there's some other law enforcement agency or like the prosecutors willing to at least talk or try and mend whatever's going on with the police, or, a local council person or a state representative, or worst case scenario, you call your congressman and say, look, this is what's happening with the local police department, because you may not have juice, but somebody who will listen to you has juice.
Yeah, I can talk from experience on that. Anytime the city council would complain about anything, even when it was just stupid.
Like, I don't like their boots.
Yeah. We would, you would get called into the office. My lieutenant would normally roll his eyes. Like, look, just need you to take care of it. It's bullshit, but
fix it.
You know, that's part of being in law enforcement. And I think that that's a good next step, is that we'll figure out the chain of command of who oversees the police department there, and start sending them some emails and some phone calls, and seeing what they can do. But I think you're absolutely right too, that I don't know why the DA would not be able to step in and be a mediator and say, this is where the case is at, or, you know,
Yeah,
just something generic.
they acted like they wanted to help us. We talked to the detective, everything at the DA's office, and he was like, yeah, we'll talk to all these people. Have never heard back.
Well, then I think we're back at reminding people that this case is important and it's not going to go away.
Again, why we're having the protest.
Yeah. And, you know, Jason, you can't tell, but she's got a big following that is supporting her, which I think is awesome. You know,
You should come on.
I've been sharing my brother since I think August on TikTok, and I've built a huge following over there and lots of support from all those people over there.
I'd love to see what I can do to help. So I'll get your contact info from Brother Santana, and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, I was hoping that like you knew a guy over there, since you seem to have like a connection.
I know a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Maybe that goes five in the police department there. So.
I will say that the gals tend to be more helpful, but
well,
you know, I'm wondering
this
too.
Would be an interesting case for Julia as well. I think I may reach out to her and see if she'll come on and give her, you know, her perspective. Julia Cowley is a friend of ours who has a podcast called The Consult. She was a FBI behavioral analysis unit member. She worked on a ton of serial killer cases, including the lead on Golden State Killer. Fantastic person. Always love to hear her point of view on this. But, you know, it would be good to hear just from her perspective of, with these smaller agencies, how, I don't want to say how do you work with them, but like how do you get it past that agency, and how can we get them more resources? Because that's really what they need. You know, they need someone that's got.
And also, let me jump in as Julia here for a moment. You know, when there is a crime, the most important things to know: a person goes missing, somebody's murdered. You know, what is the scene? Where did it happen? Like, where's the last known location? Because that's essentially your crime scene until you find something else, right? And then the second most important thing is your victimology. I want to know everything about the potential victim. Like, I want to know what their personality is like, what their risks are, whether, you know, we classify them as high risk, low risk. That tells you a lot, right? Like all these things, all this deep, rich information that you can get from loved ones is the second leg of the stool, because it's your scene and your victimology that tell you what happened. And if you're not willing to, and any smart investigator knows this, if you're not willing to collect that information about your victim, which is what you have, right, available to you to figure out what happened, you're only going to solve cases by dumb luck at that point.
Yeah, and with this, I think there's so many people that you can interview, because after he disappeared, they literally went on social media and, you know, were putting stuff up of how they killed him.
Yep.
Or singing
phone calls, right?
And it's like,
there were 4 people who had his phone after he went missing.
Yeah.
Who had access to all his stuff in his phone. And then the girlfriend,
whether it was actually in the phone or his accounts on something else.
He didn't really have any like important accounts, but he was logged into everything. So they were uploading to his Snapchat. The girlfriend and the girl that he was cheating on his girlfriend with got together, and they uploaded a video saying, "Where's Matthew? Just so you know, we know what's going on." And then the other girl, the side girl, put on Facebook a song of her singing, "I just killed my ex." right after he went missing.
And they claim, I suppose, that he was left somewhere without his phone, right? That they actually.
That's how we took it.
Yeah.
And the girlfriend said she left him in a cemetery, and that was all she gave us for like a year.
Which that doesn't make any sense either.
She's given
Why
us
would you-
parts and pieces of her stories for the last 3 years. She's still
Right.
coming up with new information.
Yeah.
And this was the individual who the search warrant was executed against?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting one to read.
Is there any sign of activity since the search warrant? Law enforcement activity?
No.
Yeah, and that's the whole nother issue. And Jason, you know, this is like the more time that goes by, the harder it's going to be to, you know, if we're talking about recovery and, you know, just getting in touch with witnesses, honestly, and people. And people move around.
The chief of police literally said, because where his, like, we had a tracker dog, our own, the police didn't even get a dog to get his scent, but we got our own tracking dog to get his scent. And where his last, like, known scent is a hillside that's very steep and dangerous, railroad tracks and a river. And the police, the chiefs literally said, he's over that hillside. I know it, but won't check it. Hasn't checked it. Hasn't asked resources to come in and check it. So when we finally got this search and rescue to come in, they're going to finally check everything after 3 years.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that
you
becomes
know,
hard.
and another common thing, right? Like that's another way where you can shake the tree and get action, because nobody, whether you're law enforcement or anyone else, no one wants somebody else to come behind you and do your job and be successful. I remember when Kimberly Loring went to testify in front of the U.S. Senate. The family had found these bloody, or these boots with what looked like blood stains on them and a sweater near where Ashley disappeared, and they wanted them to be tested. So they handed them over to, I think it was the Bureau of Indian Affairs and maybe to the FBI, but BIA ended up having it. And they lost it, and they couldn't find it. And guess what happened on the day she testified before Congress? The BIA director walked up to her in the hearing room and said, "We found it." They found it on a shelf in the room it was supposed to be. And so you know what that really means is they didn't really make an effort to look until somebody picked up the phone from Washington and said, "Where the heck is this?" And so that kind of pressure, that kind of political pressure, your state local representative as well as your federal representative, you would be amazed at what it can move if you hit the right pressure points.
So that hillside, sorry, I'm wrong one. The hillside, that's never been searched.
No, but it's going to be searched.
And like when you say steep, is this something that
it's not walkable?
Okay.
There's trees growing sideways.
Is this hillside? So it's very, very rural area. Is this hillside fall under the county jurisdiction by any chance?
It goes into the river, which right across from the river is Cal. It's weird because the jurisdiction where, that's another thing that the officer tried to tell me about during all this time. He was trying to explain the jurisdiction. Technically, where my brother went missing is not their jurisdiction, but no one else would take the case, he said, so they got it.
Oh, wait a second. So I do wonder if there was any possibility, like if this were to be something that the county, maybe they're just okay with letting go of it if they said they don't want it.
Well,
I wonder. Yeah.
A rumor is that the Long Branch officer wanted it and he only had it for 20 minutes before Cal took it back.
Oh. Huh.
So the search and rescue team, is that a private company or is this
It's PA Wilderness Search and Rescue.
Okay. And they are on board though, right?
Yep.
Okay. I'd love to hear an update. I don't know what Jayson is doing. You're
There
like
he is.
clicking buttons over there.
The world is doing it to
Gosh.
me.
And
But
Nina over there that-
they said once the weather breaks, they're going to do some searches. I'm going to be
Okay.
present for the big search at the cemetery, so they're going to let me know about that.
All right.
And I wonder if they have any advice as well. It would be worth asking them if these private groups that have worked with different law enforcement agencies before, they might have access to resources or advice that would be useful, like really specifically to Pennsylvania too.
Have
You know, I'm
you,
gonna reach out to Brian knows Jeff
Yeah.
from Brandon Swanson's case.
if I have one suggestion I could make for you, two suggestions. One, Crawl Space Media, the podcast Missing. That would be a great space.
I already did that.
Okay, you already did that one, so that's good. You already checked that box, but I don't know if you've been in touch with Private Investigations for the Missing, the nonprofit created by Brianna Maitland's dad, Bruce. That would be another great one. So, the investigator, the private investigator who was working on Maura Murray's case, Lou Barry, eventually connected with a guy named Greg Overacker, who was working Brianna's case as a pro bono private investigator. And eventually Lou and Brianna's dad started this foundation that provides private investigators for families of the missing at no cost. They vet them. They know they're qualified. They know that they're not a scam. And many of them are former law enforcement. And we've definitely seen situations where families could not get law enforcement to talk to them. And then one of these private investigators who's ex-law enforcement gets involved, and they're like telling them everything.
Right.
I mean, like everything. So that might be an option as well.
Mind of Monsters said she can send that to me.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
It's
So
certainly
Sam,
with it.
what's next with you?
With
You've
me,
yes.
I'm starting a podcast.
Are you really?
Cool.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I
When's it
haven't
starting?
I haven't started it yet. I haven't even announced it yet. So this is my first announcement. But it's gonna be called Sam's Still Searching. And I'm gonna use my platform since I have so many followers on TikTok. And once my brother's found, I'll start working with families of the missing.
Oh, that's cool.
That's so awesome.
I was also invited by PASAR, PA Wilderness Search and Rescue, to work with them when everything's said and done. So
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah. And I mean, and if you want to see a space where you see amazing things, I just think of some of the family members I've talked to over the last year or few years. It's an amazing group of people. Like the resilience that you guys show, the good that you bring out of bad situations, like takes my breath away. Because, and I hear people say this all the time, and I completely agree. Like being in the situation, and I realize we all react different ways to things like this, but imagining being in the situation you're in, and it was my brother, I don't know if I could stand. I don't know if I could fight. I don't know whether I could make something good come out of it. So,
and that's why I want to do it, because not everyone can do that. And I
yeah,
look at the difference of me and my mom. My mom can't handle that. My mom can't do that. But I can stand up. I can fight for my brother. I can fight for his name, and I'm going to. And I'm going to fight for other family members' names until I can't.
yeah. And your voice in that situation helps all of them, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's an inspiration for the rest of us, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, I told her it's one of those things I think can wear you down when you're told no constantly, but Sam just keeps on going and going. And it's like, now you're doing a podcast. I mean, you went from putting up TikTok videos to getting how many people to follow you? 10,000?
I'm up to 10,000 today. Yeah.
10,000
Nice.
people. And now you're doing a
Since-
podcast.
Just since
and-
like September.
Yeah.
And all those people are good reason. I know many of them there are many people have come here tonight and have been leaving comments and other things, but like and are watching, and there's a lot of things that they can do as well. You know, we've talked about reaching out, but there's a lot of people that care about you and are supporting what you're doing, and that those people can reach out to this congressman and write letters or make phone calls as well, and you get enough calls, and it becomes enough of a problem just of having to deal with people with this, then things can happen as well. And so,
And I did want to let you guys know that we are having the protest virtually as well if you cannot make it.
Oh,
So we're going to stream it on Mind of Monsters YT, my TikTok, and also on Facebook.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely join in for that.
Yeah, it'll be the same time, but we'll stream it the whole time so everyone can be available. And while everyone's in like streaming, we want to tag every official page we can to get their attention while we're at the protest.
very cool.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do anything we can to help.
You guys
So,
are the best. Thank you.
and we will get a hold of the search warrant one way or the other. Like that's not something that will that's something that will happen. We'll be able to get a hold of that one way or the other. I mean,
I believe it.
we have some attorneys that we're friends with that we could ask for advice as well in this kind of situation. But like we can figure the search warrant out though.
Yep.
It's a public record. It's not sealed. So
right.
Right.
Yep, Brian loves doing that type of stuff.
So
Well, Jayson, thank
Happy
you
to
for
write a
coming on.
motion for it.
What's that?
I'm happy to write a motion for you. I'll file the whole lawsuit for you. I'm not a lawyer, but
You know what? You can have like ChatGPT do it. It'll be just as good.
no. I got sued
There you
once.
go.
This is great. I got sued once, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I can be my own lawyer. You're gonna have to pay for them. Let's see which one of us."
Well,
I'm not really gonna be my own lawyer, but certainly I know how to make the wheels go.
you know what? We're going to keep on plugging away at this. Sam, I'd love to have you back on again to make sure we can just keep on putting this. You know what inspired this actually is Jayson, on your show that we were on, you were talking about a case in West Virginia. You're going to have to remind me, but I remember
Gretchen
you said
Fleming, I think,
that.
or no? Yeah,
It's what?
Gretchen. Was it
I
Gretchen
don't think it
Fleming?
was Gretchen
No, it
Fleming.
wasn't Gretchen
No.
Fleming.
Okay, maybe it's
But I remember you said that like a lot of people weren't interested, so you decide just to shove it down their throats. You said it more
Yes.
poetically than
Yeah.
that. I feel like that is the good philosophy with this is that, you know what, they may think, oh, it's just 10,000 people, but you keep on shoving it down their throats. They're going to get tired of answering the call. And, you know, once these city or town councilmen keep on getting emails and letters, which we'll put something out. I'll send you some drafts and we'll find a way to get it out to everyone. And I think that's the next step is start flooding their inboxes and phone calls.
I agree.
Well,
and the state police and all of this could ultimately help the state. That might help the state police become interested as well. And I really believe you retrieve those messages where an officer communicating with you, just pretending like he's talking about the case, and then flirting with you over Snapchat of all places, like as well on potentially a department issued cell phone, is so insane that,
There
someone
might
else.
be another way at this, though, to this point of getting outside law enforcement involved. You may be actually nailing it because that's a public corruption thing.
Yes.
Mhm.
It would require a third-party agency to look into that. They can't have 5 people. You can't have one of your other four
Right.
coworkers investigate you.
Got bad news for you. Even if you had 500, you'd still have.
Right.
well, I'm glad you brought that up. It's still that's still shocking. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up for tonight. Brian, how can we support you?
Nothing to plug tonight. I'm just pissed about all this stuff the more we talk about it. So
All right.
I'm sorry.
The next conversation that we have, we'll be talking about this search warrant that we're going to have very soon. So
Yeah,
we'll
it's
go
so
through it.
annoying that pisses me off And I don't know if it's because I'm entitled, because I used to be a cop and I'm used to be able to, just getting things very easily. But it's the same shit with our book. I was telling Brian earlier, where it was like, we knew that the document existed, we knew where it should be, and they just refused to hand it over until we bitched enough.
Yep.
Yeah, if we can get a hold of documents from the 1970s, that some of which were the original copies were lost in fires and floods and other things, we can certainly get a copy of this thing from a few years ago that does exist. So it's not going to be, it shouldn't be.
By
this
the
hard.
way, the girlfriend has a copy of the warrant paperwork.
Well, yeah, and they had to give it to her.
Right. Yeah, she has it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's yeah.
But they wouldn't share any information with us.
It's actually written on it.
And they might not share their copy, but that's not the clerk has a copy. They like, and I just don't believe that the clerk ceded all of their records or any traces to the district attorney's office. That doesn't make any sense. So,
it's judicial requirement.
All right. Well, if you want to support Brian, I'm going to give you a plug anyway. You can go to briansantanaauthor.com. He's got a few articles on there. You can also get his book, A Murder on Campus, A Professor the Cop in North Carolina's Most Notorious Cold Case. He wrote that with myself. And Jayson, I know that you hate to give yourself plugs, so I'm going to give you one anyway. Please go and check out his show, The Silver Linings Handbook. It's on Apple, Spotify, anywhere where you can get a podcast. It's just not on YouTube.
I've got a plug. It's not for me, though.
I knew you were going to do this.
If I could plug anyone, and it fits with the conversation that we're having today. Amazing woman who has become an advocate after her sister was killed in what probably was a domestic violence incident in Florida. Brittany Lloyd, check her out on Instagram, check her out on TikTok. She has become just an amazing voice for families, and I think a great resource for people in the true crime community who want to do something good. I had her on in January, and I have spent more than a month telling every person I know, particularly people who are victims, family members, get in touch with her. She's amazing.
And one thing too about Jayson as well, Sam, is that I'm sure if you reach out to him, he knows people that have been in a comparable situation before that he'd be happy to probably put you in touch with privately.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Well, Sam, can you give, the podcast isn't out yet, but
it's up. There's no videos yet. I'm working on it.
All right. Well, please let us know when that happens. And hey, if you need any help with that, let me know.
I will. Thank you.
People. If you want to support the show, make sure you like and subscribe to Santana True Crime. You can also, like I said, with the book, Murder on Campus, you can buy that on Audible, Kindle. I've said this line too many times. Anywhere where you can buy a book. I really don't care about the plugs today because we really just want to find Matthew and bring him home and give the family some closure. So make sure you support Sam. Sam, where can we find you on TikTok? It's just Sam with a golden heart.
Yeah, but it's SAAMJOO770.
All right. So if you find her on TikTok, I think the easiest way to do is to search
Matthew's name.
McDonald.
You'll find me.
Yep. And you'll definitely see plenty of videos of her. Sam, incredible job. So proud of you. Keep up the fight. And if there's anything we can do to support you, please let us know.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and good night.